Okay, I think we can start now. Hi, everyone. My name is Anastasia, and I'm Business Development Lead for Alderley Park. My role is to strengthen and expand the ecosystem, and we're welcoming you all on the logistics webinar today. So to begin with, I will introduce you to Alderley Park, just quickly, just a short overview, and then I will pass the screen to Gareth, my colleague from the Open Access Lab, and then we will go into deeper discussion with Sonia and from Cryonics, and George and Gary from Biocair, and discuss the logistics solution in greater details. Thanks everyone for coming. So, sorry. So to begin with, Alderley Park, we're not an independent science park. We're part of Brentwood SciTech, which is the largest landlord of science parks. So we have presence in Cheshire, East, in Alderley Park, few in Manchester, so City Labs, Manchester Science Park and Circle Square, Leeds, Birmingham. Last year we bought the site in Liverpool, and just 2 weeks ago we announced opening the site in Cambridge. Also, we're looking to expand all the way up to north to Scotland. So that's a great opportunity for the companies to be part of the network and be part of these innovative districts, because we collaborate. Altogether, there are 500 companies in the portfolio. So when it comes to Alderley Park, there are 200 companies on site. The main 3 USPs are being drug discovery and development site, diagnostics, and tech hub. From therapeutic perspective, it's a life science campus, so all sorts of diseases being studied here. However, the biggest consortiums would be oncology and antimicrobial resistance. But saying that, we have a number of companies working in cardiovascular, diabetes, neurodegenerative diseases, and so on. So altogether, science, office spaces, residential, and amenity make us Alderley Park, being the largest single-site life science campus. That's us in a nutshell. We have 1.4 million square foot of labs, 3,500 people on site, and more than 200 companies. They range from 1 or 2 man band to national, international, and governmental organizations. For instance, we have Medicine Discovery Catapult, Cancer Research UK, and National Biofilms Innovation Centre as governmental organizations. Infex Therapeutics and SciLife, Infex Therapeutics, it's ex-antimicrobial resistance center of excellence. From the international companies, we have SciLife Sciences, one of the largest CDMOs in India, or Evotech. So the scope of companies is broad. And of course, importantly for us, we support and do our best to help companies grow. If companies are happy, we are happy. So we have a range of science services, in particular the Open Access Lab, about which my colleague Gareth will discuss in further details in just a minute. But part of that as well, that's when we have the logistics support and business growth support and the accelerator that comes from that kind of branch. We have 2 investment funds, Glasshouse dedicated to tech, and it's all about collaboration on both international and national levels. So at the international, we work closely with Department for International Trade. In fact, we are organizing as well international missions. So in October, antimicrobial resistance mission from Europe. So Dutch, German, and French companies are coming to the UK and spend the day at Alderley. But also at the national level, we partner with 10 universities from Staffordshire, Kiel, 3 in Liverpool, 3 in Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds, all the way up to Newcastle. But also with 9 schools and of course governmental organizations that support getting access to NHS, like NIHR, Health Innovation Manchester, and post-trials would be nice. We have a National Lighthouse Laboratory on site. This is one of the 3 mega labs where 24/7, soon to be 365, COVID testing has been done. Elderly Park Accelerator for young startups. I wouldn't go into more details, but we proved companies who participate, they are 3 times less likely to fail and 2.5 times more investable. Glass House, that's an example of the tech hub, and it's all about community and events. So we have a large conference hall where we host and are looking forward to in the near future to host science and business seminars, but also we're trying to improve and encourage new generation of scientists, well, new kids becoming new generation of scientists. So we work closely with the community and organize seasonal events when it's open to families and people living in the region. Just in case, if not, somebody doesn't know where we're based, we're just 15 minutes away from the airport and 25 minutes away from Manchester. That's it. I will pass now the screen to Gareth.
Thank you very much, Anastasia. I'm going to share a short presentation for you now before we go into the main topic of today. So one of the reasons we've identified that the site continues to be successful in terms of customer success rates and customer survival rates is the scientific services and the support services we can provide. So obviously we have business support services provided through our accelerator team, and then we have lab science services on site, and then we also have sort of ancillary sort of logistics, operational services and other things you would expect from a shared use science park. So I'm going to spend 10 minutes just quickly talking about some of the science services specifically, then I'll hand over to our guest speakers today who are going to talk specifically about logistics and the challenges and how to overcome some of those related to Brexit. So we refer to our scientific services as open access, and that's because we see the technology as really open access in the ethos where we can get access to high-end scientific equipment in a pay-as-you-go format, which would allow small startup companies to get early access to that equipment, and therefore that allows them to do research at a much earlier stage to prove hypotheses or to submit grant funding, capital investment, portfolio funding. So why would that be beneficial on site, and why would a science park need that? So for companies to be successful, they need access to the equipment first and foremost, and they also need support to get experience and scientific knowledge into those areas where it's required. So within the science services team, we have extensive support in terms of UPLC method development and troubleshooting of that equipment and data analysis. So it allows you to take advantage of the in-house expertise which is already on site, whether that be via the network or directly from the Oakley Park team, to help build the competence of your employees and staff. So we have 3 main parts, and we'll talk quickly and briefly about these individually. So we have the Waters Lab, which is a direct partnership with Waters Mass Spectrometry Company, a global corporation based in the US and have UK headquarters in Wilmslow. This is based around UHPLC mass spectrometry. So if you require further information about that, please do contact us and we can have a one-to-one discussion about how we can meet your needs in that area. We also have a 500 megahertz Bruker NMR lab with a advanced 3 HD spectrometer and a double resonance broadband smart probe. So that enables 1-dimensional and 2-dimensional NMR experiments across multiple nuclei. So once again, if that's something which would be of use to you guys, please do either drop a question in the chat or send us an email directly at the end and we can have a conversation. The newest addition to the lab Services department at Ogley Park is a Cytiva partnership. So this is based around cell and protein analysis technologies. We're also looking to refresh our equipment in this area April 2021, so in the imminent future. So if there are any other sort of application areas such as cell and gene therapy, whole cell analysis and things like that, which are within the Cytiva portfolio, we'd be happy to discuss how we can get that instrumentation in the lab also. We currently have surface plasma resonance, biomolecular imaging, purification through the active flux system, active pure systems. Unfortunately, the high content analysis system that's on this screen is no longer with us because that's been discontinued by Cytiva. So I need to update that slide for next time. One of the underpinning services we see as vital to the ecosystem on site is the co-working lab. This allows startup companies to get early access to a shared lab facility with dedicated equipment in that space across a broad range of scientific disciplines. That includes access to the Waters lab, the scientific Cytiva lab, the NMR, and things that you would expect, such as centrifuges, -80 freezers, microscopes, anything you would expect to find in a normal laboratory. On top of that, we have chemical and biological waste streams set up, piped gases, and everything is designed to streamline the process of getting into a lab and getting up running as soon and as quickly as possible. So there's a little bit about me there. I'm sure you don't need to go into any detail on that. So I'm going to pass on to my colleagues at Biocair, which is Gary and George, to start the main topic of this today.
Hi Gareth, thank you very much for that. Unfortunately, due to the nature of the world that we live in, Gary's suffering a bit of technical issues. So I'm not Gary. My name is George Gibbons and I'm responsible for marketing here at Biocair. But firstly, thank you very much to Anastasia, Katie, Louise and yourself, Gareth, for giving Biocair the opportunity and the time to take part in today's webinar. So the format of the next few minutes is I'm going to provide a brief overview of Biocair, who we are and what we do. And then my colleague James Shipments, the Client Relationship Manager based in Cambridge, UK, he will talk to you more about the operational and the Brexit side of things in today's webinar. So Biocair was originally in 1986. We were created because there was a need for a specialist logistics company to manage the temperature controlled and time sensitive samples, materials that were being shipped around Cambridge, around the domestic area, but also internationally. And over time we've grown organically. And as you can see, we've now got over 35 years of experience, purely dedicated to supporting the life science sectors. So we support many of the largest pharmaceutical companies, the R&D institutes, government agencies, but also small startups. Similar to quite a few of the customers at Alderley Park, and we manage the supply chain aspects. As you can see, about 3/4 of our shipments are temperature controlled, and we also provide services for expanding areas of science such as advanced therapies, personalised medicine, and within that is cell and gene therapy. We cover all aspects of the temperature ranges, starting from the controlled ambient right through to a nice and cold -196 degrees Celsius for those aforementioned cell and gene shipments and other materials that need to be cryogenically preserved. So we offer around the clock 24/7 logistics support globally with offices across the US, the UK and Europe, Africa and Asia. And we deliver a truly white glove logistics service where our drivers will arrive on site with validated and certified packaging. We'll also provide the dry ice if required, and we provide the white glove service to get all shipments arriving to the location in temperature and in a compliant and safe way of doing so. And just the last point there, before I hand over to my colleague James, is we have a dedicated and in-house quality and compliance team who advise on all aspects of import and export regulation. And as part of the service, we actually, wherever legally possible, we can develop and implement all types of documentation, such as labelling. We can advise on customs tariff codes, and we can actually create standard operating procedures as well. We operate truly across the globe. Just a few things to point out here. So our offices in India opened this year. That's part of our expansion plans for the coming years. So we've now got offices across Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi and Mumbai, in addition to the existing network offices that you can see there. I'm going to hand over to James now. He's our customer relationship manager, and James will be covering some of the operational aspects to consider when moving life science shipments, and also touching on a bit of Brexit. So thank you very much.
Thanks, George. Yeah, my name's James. I'm a client relationship manager at Biocair in our Cambridge office. I deal with the day-to-day operations side of it, all the logistics, to ship your samples from your premises to wherever you want in the world. We have 5 steps to follow, which can help with ease to ship your samples. Our first one is our packaging. We need to know what you're sending and how you want it sent. We have a range of packaging, as George mentioned, all the way from liquid nitrogen all the way up to controlled ambient, and we can ensure we've got packaging available for all your DG needs, from all your biological samples through to radioactive material. As I said, in order to work this out, we need to know what you're shipping. The more information you can provide about your samples, the less questions we have to ask. We can provide better routes for your shipments, ensure all the documentation is available for customs procedures at both ends to make sure that there's no hold-ups during the journey. The biggest problem since Brexit has been Incoterms shipping to Europe. Your Incoterms determine who pays duty and taxes on shipments into your country that you're sending to. The biggest issue we found with Brexit is that a lot of European countries, the customers there don't want to pay any extra as they were before, and have been refusing to pay duty and VAT. We can help you decide which Incoterms you want to use for your shipment to ensure that there's no delays at the customs with the constantly refusing to pay duties and this getting snagged and your shipment being delayed. We're also able to choose the best and quickest routing for your samples, whether this be by road or air, to ensure that there's no cold chain delays and that your samples can be topped up with dry ice or kept in fridges throughout your transport procedures to make sure they arrive in good condition to the consignee. And we're also able to make use of various GPS and temperature monitors to ensure that you're able to track your shipments in real time if you're using a GPS monitor. And if you just want a temperature recording of it, we can have those to ensure that you're aware that your samples are being maintained at the correct temperature throughout the whole transport procedure. And my colleague Gary's details there. If you have any requests for him, unfortunately he's not with us at the moment on the call, but there is details there if you have any further questions or want to get in touch with him. I'll hand you over to Sonia, I believe.
Yes, thank you very much, James and team. So let me just share screen. There we go. Right, hopefully everyone can see that. So hi everyone, my name is Sonia Horton. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cryonics, and firstly I'd just like to thank the APL team for inviting us along to co-host with the Biocair experts. So to give you a bit of background about Cryonics, there we go. So we are experts in temperature controlled storage and logistics management services. So we're headquartered at Audley Park, where we have our world-class vapor phase liquid nitrogen facility. And our second premises is at the Heath Business and Technical Park in Runcorn, where we've got specialist facilities for room temperature down to -80 C samples. So we store preclinical to clinical and soon to be medicinal product storage. Our entire business model is around providing assurance of sample and product integrity and security for our customers. And we provide a holistic service which includes end-to-end cold chain management. Alongside this, we are a highly regulated company. So when we onboard a new customer, we'll carry out due diligence and support any regulatory license setup required, and also support international shipments. For the cell culture scientists within the community, we also have a weekly quality control testing service for things like mycoplasma, genotyping, etc. So our entire raison d'etre for our company is to reduce our customers' non-value added time in their workflows. So as this presentation is around logistics, I thought to help you understand how we actually support our customers, we do a bit of a case study. So sorry, I'm just looking at the screen going, is there any way I can reposition that? So apologies if you can't quite see it. So for one of our customers, Quagmire, they're a proteomic science and diagnostics company that have a specialist computational algorithm called K-Scan that interrogates the phosphoproteome. So for any samples we store, it's absolutely imperative that they are kept to the highest quality and integrity, and ensuring that temperature, there is no deviations. That's the same across the board for any sample, and especially when you're talking about post-translational modifications. So Quagmire have actually employed us to coordinate all of their national and international shipments on their behalf. And this also includes, for example, if they've got a collaborator who wishes to send them samples, we will come in on the discussion and just interrogate all of their import-export paperwork to make sure everything is above board. So we do this by offering a seamless service with premium couriers, including Biocair. So in this pipeline, the blue boxes are a very, very top level overview of where we interact with premium couriers. And as the Biocair team have just shown, there's an awful lot more work that goes on behind the scenes underneath those. But from our customers' perspective, in green, they simply send us a single email saying what they want. Because they are our customers, we are aware of their licenses already, we are aware of their samples, their scientific requirements, the end assay. So we can just interrogate all of that information, bring the appropriate courier on board, and work with them to implement the appropriate import-export paperwork. If the courier has got everything under control, that's great. If anything is missing or there's more complex shipments involved, then we can plug that gap. For example, one of the recent ones, we've can coordinate official veterinarians to attend the customer's site, look at the actual samples and sign off export health certificates. Again, just to confirm, if the courier has this in hand, we don't duplicate any process. So the couriers always pre-clear customs before the samples are even collected. They deliver validated, correctly labeled packaging and paperwork to the site, and dry ice is replenished throughout the journey as standard. Not that we've had any, touch wood, but any delays in shipments, we will work with the courier and maintain good communication with the customers and collaborators to ensure that any paperwork paperwork is resolved expediently. We can coordinate import notifications to the relevant agencies as required, and at the end of this entire process, the customer's been maintained with regular updates of what's been happening and is given a single invoice to cover everybody's overheads along the process. So this particular webinar, I was asked to come and give some hints and tips, and obviously not everybody on the call is necessarily going to want to use a premium courier. A number of customers, for example, may have samples which aren't necessarily that expensive, and so it doesn't make sense to spend so much. So I thought I'd give you some hints and tips as to my background. So I used to be the Global Cell Bank Lead for AstraZeneca's mammalian cell line repository. So for 7 years, I oversaw probably about 40% of my job was overseeing complex international shipments and implemented import-export paperwork. So to give you a bit of background as to how I've gone about it historically and currently, the first one to be aware of is patience. It takes time to put in place the appropriate regulatory documents for complex international shipments. So set expectations. It may not take, it could take a bit longer than a couple of days. For CITES shipments, where you've got African green monkey cell lines like COS7, it could take you 2 months. So just pace yourself and do the due diligence. Next is do a gap analysis of what your courier is actually on top of, paperwork-wise, and what you or your collaborator, import-exporters, need to sort out. And again, to do this, you need to research. So the documents that I've outlined below, they're great for thinking about how to package, UN terms, customs, etc. However, if you're shipping animal byproducts, for example, it doesn't explain anything there. And every single country has its own regulations. And to give you a bit of an idea, the European regulations for animal byproducts, 1069/2009, that covers all of Europe, including us. However, every single country has interpreted those same regulations slightly differently. So you need to go onto the individual government's websites to actually understand what you need to do. So next is risk assess your shipment. So by this that we use internally is what is your time to failure versus your time to implement your next backup plan. So when you're planning a shipment, for starters, have you got both sites registered? So the European Commission has an approved site register online, and if you want to ship, for example, animal byproducts, you need to be on there. So make sure you've done your due diligence. If you don't need fetal bovine serum in your samples, remove it. Just remove it, no matter what origin. It's a pain. Yeah, so in the cell bank, we always used to do best practice cell culture, generation of archival master working banks, and we'd freeze down 5 samples in non-fetal bovine serum containing media such as Cryostore. Make sure it's mycoplasma tested, etc., and then you're ready to go. Validated time to failure. By this I mean, if for example you have 20 kilograms of dry ice in an igloo, igloos are not all made the same, then theoretically this should last, for example, I don't know, 72 hours. However, if you're going via India, the dry ice is going to sublime quicker, so take that into account. If customs hasn't been pre-cleared, then you need to be checking, check the route, etc. And one of the biggest risks I always think is having a responsible person in your team overseeing that specific shipment. We've had cases many years ago where one of my colleagues placed a request for a shipment with one courier, and they went on holiday and the courier refused to talk to anybody else in their team. So we had no awareness whatsoever. So if whoever books that shipment, make sure they are around to maintain it, or at least get the courier's confirmation that they're willing to use, for example, a generic company address. Do you need to prove sample integrity, temperature data loggers, tamper-proof seals, etc.? And think about your backup strategy. Irrelevant of how much those values are worth to customs or to recreate them, what's that impact to your business? Do you know the courier's terms and conditions? Do you actually need to consider placing in place insurance, business continuity for the impact of that shipment not being delivered successfully? And when the consignment's collected, were there any deviations? You plan to ship 20 kilograms, you get to the lab and your box that you put on the side has been nicked by one of your colleagues, so you have to use a 10 kilogram dry ice. How quickly is that going to run out if there are any delays? And next, during the journey, if the courier doesn't automatically replenish your dry ice and you need to send paperwork in, think about that time to failure. Have you got the paperwork at the ready? Have you got it filled out? Do you know who to send it to? Can you get confirmation that person's around, or somebody in the courier firm is ready and primed to get that paperwork and actually implement it? And how quickly do you want to get that paperwork in? If your timeline's 72 hours, do you do it at the beginning of day one? So you've got day two, sorry. So you've got all day to check. And then at the end, when the samples have been delivered, could anything have gone differently? Learn from your experiences and build that working relationship with your courier. So that's a whirlwind overview of how we manage our customers' logistics samples. And a special thank you to Konomica and Jane and the team for letting us use them as a case study. So to give you a bit of an idea about customer-centric personalized service, I've been known to contact somebody on a Tunisian beach before because they were worried about a shipment that was happening whilst they were on holiday. So to make sure they could enjoy the holiday with no concerns whatsoever, we were giving them text messages to say the samples are safe, they've passed through customs, they're being delivered tomorrow and they've been topped up with dry ice. Go and enjoy your holiday. And that's all with just one simple email. So thank you very much. Excellent, that's it.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, George, James, and Sonia for such a thought-provoking presentation. Also, thanks, Sonia, for giving the tips. It sounds like it's a full science. You know, maybe one day you can write a book on how to become a perfectionist in sending the samples.
There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain behind each one of those points. Lots of experience.
Yeah, I can see the questions are coming in, which is great. But just a quick one. I think it's to all our speakers of today. My background is cell and gene therapy, and I do remember how I don't want to say word stressful, but it was not an easy step, the last step when we think, okay, we can breathe out, that's it, product done, we can send it to the clinics, to the patients, hopefully they will get immunotherapy. But after you described everything, and from my past experience, I do remember this hope. Hopefully it will be on time. Hopefully nothing will get stuck on the border. So my question is, what actually happens if the product, say clinical product, gets stuck on a border? If I'm a scientist, what should I do? Do I need to run to Heathrow? Do I need to just sit, relax, and wait for your message? Any tips?
So I guess Biocair will probably be able to explain much better what happens behind the scenes and how they actually resolve it. I guess from our perspective, we work really, really closely with our courier partners, and that is why we can only provide a premium service to our for international shipments. It is expensive because when there are delays, I mean, we've dealt with things like paper customs import changing halfway through a shipment. So, you know, when the country just goes, right, no heads up or anything, all the regulations change, then you need to have that whole dry ice backup. If you're doing a liquid nitrogen shipment, how are you going to, you want to make sure that your courier partner can expedite the shipments through customs, and it's getting that paperwork right. However, I will leave it to Biocair.
Thanks, Sonia. Yeah, from our point of view, so we try and get all the paperwork done in advance so that there are no snags during the customs entries and exits. However, for some places like the US, they have the FDA there who can inspect any shipment they want at any time without any reason, and in those cases, we just make sure we maintain the temperature of the samples, that they don't go out of temperature range, and they're kept pretty safe throughout. And we'll provide all the information, any documents that's requested for us, to help speed this through the customs procedure.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for answering that. Okay, going to the questions that we have in our Q&A session. So first one is, do Biocair handle all paperwork requirements, and also how has Brexit affected transit times from the UK to Europe?
Okay, thanks. Yeah. So for the paperwork, we try and complete all the paperwork we can legally for your samples. If there's anything that we can't do ourselves, we'll point you in the right direction, give you templates to put on your letterhead, just to make it as easy as possible for you. And anything anything else that might take a bit longer, like import permits, again, we'll try and give you as much help as we can. But some things, unfortunately, we can't apply for. With regards to Brexit, it does take longer now. As Sonia mentioned, the EU regulations are interpreted differently by every single EU country, which doesn't make it easy to ship samples around Europe now. So what we have in place, we've got a network of officers and approved partners in all our European countries. And we will send your shipments out there, all the paperwork out there first, to get what we call pre-approval. They can check what import permits are needed, if any. The consulate's got everything they need in order to import. And then once we have the all clear from them, we'll send it out there. But yeah, that does take a bit of time to get that in place. And unfortunately, at the moment, the double up of COVID as well means there's a bit more of delay on flights and stuff. But we hope that gets back to normal soon.
Okay, no, that's useful. And then continuing the topic of Brexit, I think, James, you kind of partially answered maybe that question, but if there's anything, please feel free to add. But maybe to Sonia now, did Brexit taught you anything about the shipment or international shipment that you wish it was known earlier? But perhaps, yeah, actually to James as well on international shipment, that would be applicable as well.
Shall I go first? So I guess for me, I mean, my background was a research scientist, bench scientist, so worked for pharmaceutical industry for 20 years. So when I moved into my role as the global cell bank lead, and we weren't necessarily always allowed to use premium couriers, I quickly learned that I needed to learn regulations. And I mean, trying my first shipment to Canada, it took me 2 weeks to learn all the governmental regulations to get samples across in one piece. So when Brexit's on the horizon, I set aside several days just to learn. And again, because we're highly regulated, I'm constantly in touch with our regulatory bodies, the Animal, Plant and Health Agency, especially with Brexit, Human Tissue Authority, all the regulators. We've got great working relationships with them, and veterinarians to be able to say, okay, what are the risks? Where does the land lie? What do we need to do? And it's one of those of just see how it goes, because obviously come the 1st of April, then we'll start implementing the UK regulations. So it's one of those of, I'm just very, very grateful for our premium courier partners, because they make life a lot easier.
Yeah, we had a Brexit. We've got a Brexit team on site at Biocair who looked into all the regulations that looked to be coming in. Like you say, it's just changing all the time. That's the most difficult part of it. But we've prepared as well as we can. We prepared as well as we could, I believe. It's just tempering people's expectations. Whereas before you could ship next day into Europe on a fairly cheap service. If you want next day delivery now, it's going to cost a bit more because of Brexit, because of all the customs procedures you have to go through, and the extra charges for duty and VAT that are being incurred back to the consignee or the consignor on a lot of occasions. But yeah, so it's changing all the time. It remains to be seen really how well Britain will cope with it, I suppose. But we can only do as much as we can really in terms of preparing ourselves for it.
Sure, yeah, I think I do agree. Brexit is kind of unexpected, but also now expected sort of steep learning curve for all of us. No, that's great. Thank you for answering that. Paul is asking, Sonia, if what do you think is the biggest challenge to the sample storage industry at the moment, and how does Cryonics mitigate that risk?
Okay, so hi, Paul. Thanks very much for a really good question. That's an interesting one. I think the biggest challenge I would say that I'm hearing from our customers is agility. So with the pandemic, with personalized healthcare, everything, the way that the scientific industry is moving, sample storage to the highest quality, and medicinal products as well, it is so important. It's the basis of every single scientific experiment. If you're working on poor reagents because they've not been kept at the correct temperature, or they've gone through the glass transition phase multiple times, etc., then how much can you trust your data? So I think because we are a smaller company than the larger players in the field, we were able to work with our partners to expand and tailor our service and be incredibly agile. So we've actually spent 3 years developing our quality management system based upon Lean Six Sigma. Total Lean Six Sigma nerd. So every single aspect of our business can expand and react in a very controlled manner to be able to deliver what the customers and the community needs, and also expand. So our entire business model is based upon very quick expansion. I think currently, especially with so many vaccines being required to be stored, specialist facilities like ours, it is difficult to find space sometimes. So
a lot of things to consider.
yes.
Right. I think next question is for Biocair. Jessica is asking, what paperwork other than the commercial invoice containing the product details, Incoterm and HSN code is needed to send parcels internationally? They had some issues with the customs since Brexit, and different countries seem to require different things.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the problem, that different countries require different things. In Europe, as I said, we'd speak to our partners in the country to find out exactly what is required, if there's any import permits required, whether they need any certificates from the UK, like export health certificates or anything like that to ship the samples. In the USA, they require a lot of USDA letters and permits, and CDC letters and permits, depending on what you send in. But it does vary country to country. And what we do at Biocair is take your samples and find out what is needed to export to that country or to import into the UK from that country, and either get that paperwork ourselves or point you in the right direction for it.
So do I understand correctly if I will say that I want to, I don't know, to send my parcel to Zimbabwe, you will come back to me soon and tell me a list of things I need to prepare?
yeah, so we'd get in touch with our partners in Zimbabwe, would let them know what we've got to ship out there. They'd let us know what they need to import the materials in there. And then once we've got all the information, we'll get back to you if you need to provide anything, or if we can get it all ourselves, we'll do that.
That's useful to learn. Thank you. Last question, but not least, from Dara. I think it's actually to both again. Have you had an experience shipping in and out from Northern Ireland post-Brexit? Any issues with the Northern Ireland protocol? I believe that this would be more applicable for cell and gene therapy kind of space. If not, please correct, Dara.
So from our perspective, we've had no experience of that to date.
Okay, yeah, so we do ship into Northern Ireland and from Northern Ireland. So far, it's not been too bad. There was a lot of confusion with Northern Ireland still, if there's duty and taxes to be paid, how to not pay duty and taxes. But again, so we've got our partners in Northern Ireland who sort all this out for us. They speak to the importer and make sure everything's in place. And from that point of view, it's not too much of an issue. One of the biggest problems at the moment is with COVID. It's actually getting the samples out there in the first place. There's not many flights operating, and everything that's having to be trucked at the moment. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be as bad as people think it is for most samples that we send. I think there's issues around other things like soil and stuff, which is going to be approached. But yeah, haven't had too much problem so far.
Okay, and just to clarify again, for instance, if somebody is shipping to Northern Ireland, is the best way to approach Biocair and ask, okay, I want to send this and that product to that place. Please let us know, what do we need?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we do. Again, we'd get all the information from your end, send it across to our partners in Northern Ireland. So we've got this coming in. Is there anything we need to provide for you? Is there anything they need? And if there is, we'll let you know. We'll try and get it ourselves. It just mitigates all the risk of it being held up in customs if there is any needed.
Yeah. I think I have one more question, if I may ask as well, both of you. So, Sonia, you nicely shared the tips and how in advance we need to think of this, of the shipment. So my question is, when should I then start thinking of shipment, especially if I'm a startup? I have 3 scientists, for instance, and all of them are 24/7, or 9 to 5, Monday to Friday in the lab, and it's just myself. I'm doing everything around it. And now on the top of that, I need to think of shipping the sample. What's the best timeline? When should I go to you, or when should I start thinking of arranging this?
So I guess for our customers, what we'll tend to do is we'll do an onboarding process. Very, very simple. It's usually based upon the initial conversation about what they do, understanding the types of samples they use. And because of this process, and again, my background's very much a research bioscientist, I've covered most techniques and applications in the drug discovery and development process. So there isn't much to really coach us through. So during that customer onboarding, I'll get a really good understanding about what the customer's requirements are, and also listening. There's how important are the samples to the customer, and that this changes from shipment to shipment. Sometimes it's a case of absolutely fine, use a cheap and cheerful courier versus please get these samples safe and sound, and it's that sort of personalized service that we can onboard. Again, for those on our system, once we know what you're doing, all the samples that come into our facilities, we have to have declarations as to what they are, what regulations are imported, are aligned to the various samples. So for us, the customer just says, please, can you send these 3 vials to this person? We've got all the information that we need. So it's not a prolonged process. We've got all the information to work with the courier to get the import-export declarations, etc., in place. I tend to say the sooner the better, especially with international shipments. But again, we'll always set expectations to say, yeah, this can go in a couple of days because it's nice and straightforward, or there's issues with planes, this, that, and the other, and actually it's going to take a little bit longer. But yeah, so from the customer's perspective, there's minimal work, minimal handover. We have all the information anyway to deliver the shipments.
Okay. Anything to add, James, from your end?
No, Sonia covered most of that there, really. Once you get all the information to Sonia and she can come to us with it, we won't require a lot more. She should have everything there. Yeah, the sooner we can get all the information, obviously, the better. Some people like to send it all at once. Some people like to sort of drip feed it through. But it's whatever suits your needs most, really.
Sure. Basically, if somebody wants to ship on Friday night, it's better not to approach you Thursday night. It's better to approach you a week before, right?
In an ideal world, yeah.
For national shipments, we do require notification before 11 AM the prior working day, but we do urgent shipments as well. Same day delivery, that's fine.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Well, I don't think we have any more questions, but it's almost the time to conclude to finish the webinar. I thought, just in case, if you wish to share your email addresses here in the chat box, both Sonia and James, feel free to do so. Gary is our representative at Alderley Park, so if he's the best person to approach in here for customers on site, feel free to share as well. But by no means, if somebody has any questions or would like to reconnect with Cryonics or Biocair, or with just to get in general information, Alderley Park ecosystem, open access lab, feel free to reach us to me or to the people directly. That was great. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone. Thanks to the participants. That's much appreciated. And have a nice day.
Thank you very
Lovely,
much,
thanks so much.
everyone. Much appreciated. Take care.
Bye.
Lovely, thank you.